At just about 4 minutes after the hour of 8 a.m. We are talking the 10% interest rate that has been dropped by the National Social Security Fund to its savers as part of the mandate that the fund has. I'll be introducing my guest who will be helping us understand what that means for you, the saver, for NSSF as a pensions fund, but most importantly for the economy that we are currently dealing with. The National Social Security Fund will pay out an interest rate of 10% to its members for the financial year 2022-2023. The 10% interest, which equals a total of 1.591 trillion Uganda shillings, was declared yesterday by the Minister for Finance, Honorable Matia Kasaija, at the fund's 11th annual members meeting that was held at the Kampala Serena Conference Center. Right now in the studio, I'm joined by Stephen Mwanje, the Chief Finance Officer at the National Social Security Fund. Effectively, he is the money bags at the pensions firm. Most welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
I hope that can rub off me. Interesting. Yes. At the virtual 11th annual general meeting that was held yesterday, there was an aura of optimism around the pensions fund, especially in light of what has been happening over the last 1 year or so, to speak. The interest, 10%, is higher than what was provided last year, the last financial year, which of course that means things are doing, you guys are doing pretty well. Just take us through how you arrived at this particular one. I know it's a case of NSSF dealing in all investments that you're in that dictates much of this, but couldn't it be higher?
Okay, thank you, and good morning, viewers. Now, when we are determining interest rate, we are looking at two things. Number one, we have this promise that we made to our members more than 10 years ago, about 10 years ago, where we say that we always be paying you at least 2% above the 10-year inflation rate average.
Inflation average, yeah.
Inflation rate for 10 years. So we always start with that. So if you say that the 10-year average inflation by the close of June was around 4.8 plus 2%, so you are guaranteed. You're guaranteed
something higher, yeah.
But nevertheless, we always aim to give much more than that. So the next way we determine interest rate is how much you earned, because whatever you earn in the year and you take off the little expenses that we do, then we give it back to the members, because basically we are a provident fund. So in a good year, you should get very good interest. Okay. In a bad year, we get a little bit less than we should have given you. But bottom line, the NSSF Act says that whatever happens, you have to have at least 2.5%.
At least
2.5%. So there is no year you can ever go without interest. So if we look at all the markers, 10% is very, very good rate.
Okay. So what has what has led to, there's an increment, of course, from 9.6.
Yes.
What investment portfolios have you been into? We've been told about how NSSF puts money here, there, and there, but where is it most profitable?
Okay, last year basically we had a very good return on fixed income. That is where we put in the bonds, basically, in the bonds. If you know, NSSF is a long-term investor. Yeah. So we pretty much know how much we are going to be earning in the next 3 or so years because of what we are investing. That's right. So we had a good belief that the bonds that we had giving us interest last year were from a good crop which had a higher return than usual. So we did very well there. And that for us was the best performing.
Best performing. That's what accounts for the 78% of all your investment portfolio.
Yes.
Real estate comes in with a paltry 9%. Just equities, 13%.
Yes.
What is informing this?
Okay, we have what we call a strategic asset mix, or what we should be having in each portfolio.
Okay.
So that informs us in the long run how we expect to be earning. So you can say that probably you could say for fixed income, we target to be having between, say, 75 and 85% at a time, and real estate not going to be beyond 15%. So it's just basically part of our investment strategy, depending on how the market is moving.
Okay.
Right.
All right. Interesting that when you say how the market is moving, the outlook for now, especially when it comes to the equities market, we've had a bit of news of an uncomfortable position in what Kenya is going through, and most of our money, I must say, is in Kenya. A bit of it.
No, that's not true.
Okay, yeah, that is. But we have investments there, and what happens to that particular financial architecture pretty much affects how much money we make. Can you talk about the losses that NSSF encountered in this particular year, so that we can have an idea that if perhaps the losses hadn't come in the way they did, we could be having a good threshold for interest.
Okay, let me start by making a correction. You said we have 13% in equities.
In equities, yeah.
And those equities, 60% of that is actually invested in Uganda. So not all of it.
Not all of it.
60% of that 13%.
Ah, so it's a perception issue.
Yes, it's a perception issue. Over 60%
is in Uganda.
Is in Uganda.
Okay.
Invested in Ugandan companies. Only that just about 40% is in the region.
In the region.
Kenya, Tanzania.
Spread across.
Yes, Kenya, Tanzania, and a bit of Rwanda. Basically, most of that we say probably about of the 40 or so percent, another 60 or so percent is invested in Kenya. So that's the first thing. Yes, we had a blip because of the way that the Kenyan economy performed.
Yeah.
And we got some exchange and valuation hit, which affected what we earned. And definitely, like you say, if it hadn't happened, we would have paid out a little bit more, probably much more, probably close to 13 or 14%. But like you say, when you invest in equities, it's a long-term investment.
It's a long-term investment, yeah.
And equities always have those short-term blips. You have some good years, you have some bad years. A couple of years back, we had some very good returns from Kenya, and we paid up to 14% interest. So next year, it was probably going
okay. The saver out there is very concerned, because I usually want to speak for the saver before we go into any other actors. But the saver out there is concerned. Away from the ability to, for example, access funds, the 20% midterm access, for those that access it within the parameters of the established conventional way, by the time they do, their ability to invest that money in their other businesses is heavily constrained. Many of them have either gotten depressed, many of them are anxious, and the National Social Security Fund has come under a scrutiny for, well, not inability to, but to be seen to help members, especially COP, and know how to invest that particular money when it's dished out. How does the saver benefit away from the fact that you've kept their money and you've given it to them? What are the packages available? How do you help them? Are there finance, more like PECs, information management, business management skills that you can have for them?
Yes. We are currently running, for example, a financial literacy campaign, which is very, very popular. And we have reached out.
Is it? What campaign is that?
We have a financial literacy program, which we learn for members.
Yeah.
We started it in around 2020. It used to be physical. We used to hold classes of around 200, 300 people across whatever. But now we've taken it over online, and our classes over 300,000 per year each uptake. We run cohorts a year. And now, so far, we have educated around, given financial literacy for around 3 million Ugandans, not only those serving with NSSF. That's number one. So to teach you how to manage your money. Then the other thing about retirement, what people should always remember, that NSSF is there to help you in retirement. It's not there to help you start a business at that age, because you are supposed to have done that while you are still able to do that. This is supposed to tide you over when you are not able to hustle.
Okay.
It's not to hustle anymore. So it's not to make you wait for you to start hustling when you are retiring. So the hustle should be now, and should be part of what you have made up for. Because there are other ways you prepare for retirement. Number one, you don't want to go into retirement with a mortgage. You have your own house. You've educated your children. So this is the money that should keep you calm, because cash is king. When you retire, you need cash. You need cash for that medical. You need cash for that food. So it's not to make you start work again. It's not make you start work. Yes.
Okay, you talk about mortgages. People need to afford houses. There's no point in a saver having money at NSSF and they can't afford a house.
Yes.
What is the plan?
Okay, also that you have to put that in perspective. If you listen to the minister yesterday, she gave a statistics which is very, he said just about 70% of the people in NSSF have their balances of 10 million.
10 million and below.
So let's go back to the mortgage and put it in perspective. So NSSF...
That is why you should think for them now.
Yeah, so if you have that kind of money, what can we think for you? Because a mortgage will involve having a plot.
In other words, it's little. That's little money for anybody to begin to think for you.
Yes, so that's why I say that people, you should not only be looking at NSSF. The hustle should be, you be looking now, you plan now for your future, because you're still working, you have the energy. You can do this, that, and that. But don't sit back and wait for that one-off pay, which might not be able to resolve all that, but it should be very good if it's plus what you already planned to make your life comfortable.
Okay, let me keep this to financials, because we could go into the other strategic aspects of the fund, and we could derail ourselves and we'll go into murky waters. NSSF has a lot of money, no doubt about it. Right now, 18.6 trillion Uganda shillings. The economy is grappling with the need for financing of critical projects. There has been calls for some kind of legislation that would allow for some of the money that is sitting with NSSF to be used just in case we are failing to find that money. But the controversies of whether it can be paid back on time, that's a discussion for another day. What are the options available that NSSF can or is engaging or being engaged on? Again,
that's a misconception. We say fixed income, 73% bonds. Government has borrowed that money.
It has already taken it.
It is using it. That's the first step. When government takes money, what does it? It's supposed to be doing the usual projects. So it's already, NSSF by doing that is already contributing. But that aside, but we also recognize what you are saying. We also have advanced plans in getting involved in so many other projects that are coming up with that. But like you know, because there is a law governing the use of this money, the IBRA Act and whatever, we have to be using instruments like infrastructure bonds, getting equity participation in listed companies, etc., etc. So not that NSSF is not involved; it is totally involved, and all good projects that will come up, which is of national interest. NSSF is involved. We have the Yield Fund, for example, where we are funding agriculture, upcoming agricultural projects, and we have funded over 25 of these, and so many other things that we are doing financial literacy for the masses.
Okay.
Did I continue?
Okay. Beyond paying interest and benefits to members, that's where the whole issue is, because people need to know and ought to see this thing doing a lot of work for them, especially given the gigantic nature of the institution. You talked about agriculture. Is this part of the ECG strategy? And within that, is climate finance taken care of?
climate
finance,
yes.
Enabling funds and resources into projects that are aimed at mitigating
yes.
The effects of climate change.
Yes, if you listen to the annual members meeting yesterday, the CEO Patrick talked about a little bit getting into the grain sector, where we want, you know, the problem is Uganda, we've been suffering, we are very good, we are very rich agricultural country. We grow a lot of grain.
That's right.
But we are not organized to put this in a place where you can get good prices and good quality, because everyone does their thing. So we are getting to that space. We are going to help the Uganda Grain Milling Association for Uganda become the biggest player in the region.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's something we, of course, have to look forward to. Now, with regard to local investments, SMEs are concerned that they provide the bedrock of the savers, the NSSF, small companies that are paying out some of this money. But they've been abandoned and neither neglected. And according to Moses Walgembe, the head of the Federation for Small and Medium Enterprises, you ought to go back and craft initiatives or systems that work for them away from the fact that they are remitting this. I don't know what level of engagement that is, whether they have even come forth or you have engaged as part of your corporate social responsibility.
Yes, we're definitely always engaging, but one thing we should always remember that the money seated in NSSF is savers' money, it's your money. You're a saver. So we have to be extremely careful when we are investing it, because if we lose it, you are coming back to us. Now, the issue we still have, the issue we still have with the SMEs is the issue about corporate governance.
Corporate governance.
Because you find the SME, the owner is the CEO, is the head of finance, is the head of HR, is the head, and all decisions around. So if we are going to invest in a company, we have to make sure that have very strong corporate governance structures. So Mr. Walgembe and team now have to work with the SMEs to develop this structure. As NSSF, of course, will be happy to get involved in that as corporate social responsibility to help the SMEs create strong corporate governance structures. Then it will be easier to put money there. Then we'll be comfortable that when we put that money there, that savers are not going to lose the money.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Just something you could help us clarify on exactly when the date of accrediting. Is it 1st July 2022, 1st July 2023?
Crediting of what?
Crediting of this particular...
You mean crediting of interest,
which is
putting it on your account, or when it's calculated against
yeah, just balance? Explain those two.
Okay.
The calculation begins from last year.
The calculation begins from the balance you held at the beginning of the financial year, which is 1st July
2022.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's the balance you use, and that is as per the NSSF.
So you calculate 10% of that balance.
That balance
is what you...
Yes. Now, if you are talking about crediting your interest, everyone's interest by the close of day yesterday, 2.2 million members, all their interest had already been calculated.
The SMSs had already come in.
The SMSs are coming in. They are a little bit slower. By the time we closed yesterday, 30% of the persons that received the SMSs, but by the close of day today, every one of those would have
gotten there.
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting. Any last words on this particular issue that NSSF going forward, this next financial year? Of course, the optimism is there. NSSF has been able to shed off the scrutiny, and now there is what I see as steady leadership going forward. What are the projections? Okay,
NSSF, despite the scrutiny and etc., has always been having steady leadership over the past 10 or so years. Okay. And we aim to continue that, so that we make sure that our members feel that their money and their savings are safe with us. And of course, we'll continue to do two things. Make wise, judicial, and judicious investments, and giving you a good return, so that you don't lose value.
All right. Stephen Mwanje, Chief Financial Officer at the National Social Security Fund. Thank you for the insight on the 10% interest and just the assurance that you've given out to many of the savers across the country. Let's now go to my man, Stephen Mbide, who is on ground this morning. Stephen Mbide,